What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall markets. I'm going to break down some big news coming out for Tesla to help it push today, and why tomorrow is going to be a very important day as we have the big guy Jerome Powell giving a speech and lots of economic data that's very important. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link that's down below, or use my QR code right over here to sign up. If you sign up for Moomoo with the link down below and deposit $100, you're going to get $20 of free Nvidia stock. Deposit $2,000 to get $50 worth of Nvidia plus a $100 cash reward. Deposit $10,000 to get $300 worth of Nvidia for free plus $100, or deposit $50,000 to get $1,000 of free Nvidia stock plus $100. You're also going to qualify for an 8.1% APY on uninvested cash, and the offer ends very soon, so please use my links down below to sign up. Anyways, as far as the market's going, I just wanted to mention that Tesla's still holding up very nicely on the 4-hour time frame. We're making higher highs and higher lows, at least thus far. And in the after hours, we're trying to form a base at 435, which could lead to some temporary upside. But the question is, can we take out the highs and continue to rally for 450? Or do we come short? Do we push in the morning, then come short and start dipping again towards the gap fill around that 425 area? Well, a lot of this depends on the news coming out for tomorrow and what happens with our economic data alongside Jerome Powell's speech tomorrow. So I'm going to break down exactly what the data suggests, and I'll break down more information about Tesla. But just know a couple of things. We also have SPY in the QQQ, which dipped in the morning, then saw a bounce to all-time highs as we predicted yesterday, and then we continued to break all-time highs on SPY and the QQQ, so both of them still look very, very bullish in terms of their trends. Tesla's also bullish, but it's not as strong looking as it was in the morning. We kind of pushed and dipped as the day went on, so will we pop and then drop, or do we just continue to break out? I'll give you guys more insights in just a couple of minutes. Let's first talk about the news, then I'll break down Tesla. So the good news for Tesla is that Tesla was granted approval for its autonomous robotaxi trials in Arizona. This is fantastic because Tesla's continuing to expand the scope of their robotaxi. Now, they're not necessarily launching it entirely like that. They're going to have safety monitors over there just for safety reasons and because of regulations, but still, they are expanding a lot of different areas. I did talk about this yesterday as well, which was bullish news. And then what else is really benefiting Tesla is this news right here. We had Piper Sandler analysts come out, such as Alex Potter, and he has increased his price target on Tesla to $500 from $400. That's more bullish news. He's saying this as a result as it comes to like real world AI, as lots of companies in China are looking for Tesla for guidance because Tesla is very, very much ahead of its competitors. And with the new software updates coming out, it just makes many analysts very excited. Elon Musk responded and said that China has many excellent companies in many industries, and he's right to say that. Yes, China does have lots of potential with companies like NIO, BYD, and the list goes on. And they're also competing with Teslas. They're launching new mega packs and such. But I just want to say that it's worth mentioning that Tesla's still ahead of the world when it comes to developing their autonomous technology, developing humanoid robots. Tesla is still way ahead of the game, and they deserve a lot of credit as well. So, yes, Piper Sandler are still more bullish, and that's some good news. What else greatly benefited Tesla was this. I'm not really one to get too political, but Elon Musk is once again, he was seen at Charlie Kirk's memorial service, and he was shaking hands with President Trump and speaking to him. And then he also liked some posts with President Trump, and he also responded with like laughing emojis to them, which shows that Elon Musk once again might have a more positive view of President Trump compared to before. There's like some improvements. So once again, I don't want to show every single one of the X posts because I don't want to get too political, but I just want to say that this is very important because when Elon Musk and President Trump had a relationship, Tesla investors liked it because, if anything, this allowed Elon Musk to be Tesla's constituent, to help give Tesla more influence in the White House, to help regulations and influence them to benefit Tesla, especially with getting robotaxi approved faster. That was very, very important. And that is once again what was going on. But then Elon and President Trump had a feud. Obviously, Tesla stock tanked as a result of that. And now with them speaking again, Tesla started to pop again. Tesla really liked this news. This is fantastic in my personal opinion, at least for Tesla, if they do forge a relationship. But we'll see, though. Just liking a couple of posts and shaking hands is not really enough. We don't know if Musk is going to be involved in politics. As of right now, he's more focused on Tesla, and we'll see if anything else happens. But for now, that's what we've seen from Elon Musk. And obviously, many investors are quite optimistic. Piper Sandler once again gave Tesla an overweight rating, expecting $500 a share very soon, which we could achieve by the end of the year, in my opinion. The price-price ratio is climbing, which is bullish news. And then when it comes to our seasonality, keep in mind that historically, Tuesdays tend to be green about 51% of the time for Tesla, and we tend to see more volatility at 11 o'clock a.m. and 1 p.m., the same data as before. But one thing that's concerning is that although September tends to be a green month or like a decent month for Tesla, keep in mind that October is by far the weakest month of the year for Tesla. And November through January tends to be stronger, but are we about to see kind of like a dip in October? If it happens, it's going to be a big buying opportunity. So we'll see about that just to be safe. Now, why is Tesla looking more bullish? Well, we still have a nice accumulation right here. And there were lots of times where Tesla kind of pops in the morning, then slows down, then pops again, pops in the morning, and just continues. Here it kind of popped in the morning, then dipped, then it started to bounce. Are we about to pop in the morning, then see some kind of dip move before it tries to bounce again? That's very possible. But the overall trend is still bullish as long as Tesla does not lose 421. The daily, however, is a little bit concerning. We kind of like have a liquidity grab over here and a potential topping candle, which is a possibility, but not a guarantee. We'll see if we pop in the morning, then start to slip down to fill this gap before trying to bounce again. That is a strong possibility, but overall, Tesla is still looking more bullish. But there is another factor affecting Tesla, and it's going to be the news that comes out for tomorrow and our data. So keep that in mind. There's a lot of data and news coming out that could affect the whole market and Tesla. So tomorrow, it's going to be Tuesday, September 23rd, 2025. At 9 o'clock a.m., we have Bowman giving a speech. We have minor data in the morning. This is all very minor, but then things get serious 15 minutes after market open at 9:45 a.m. We have the S&P Global Composite Manufacturing and Services PMI reports, which is known for causing volatility. Then at 10 o'clock a.m., we have the Richmond Fed manufacturing shipments, and manufacturing revenues. All this data coming out. The services revenues. All the data is coming out from the Richmond Fed at 10 o'clock a.m., which means that 15 and 30 minutes after market open, we have lots of data coming out when it comes to manufacturing and services sectors. So expect some volatility for the stock market. There's going to likely be a lot of volatility when the data comes out. And then after all that, at 12:35 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the big guy, Mr. Jerome Powell, who's going to be coming out. He's going to be giving a speech. His speech is going to be taking place at the Greater Providence Chamber of Commerce 2025. The economic outlook is going to be discussed, and this is some very important news. Now, Jerome Powell is going to be addressing something very important. We had Bostic from the Fed who came out, and he basically said that he does not see the need for further interest rate cuts this year because of inflationary concerns. He said that inflation has been too high for a long time, and that once again, things are not moving in favor of it coming down, but we'll see what happens. That's what he essentially said. So does he have reason to say that? Well, yes. Last couple of months, inflation has been on a big uptrend. If you look at the trend right here on CPI, but Jerome Powell did address this during FOMC, and he said that actually what might happen is that we see inflation at these high levels, but then it's going to start tanking like a rock over time because the tariff inflation might be short-lived. That's what Jerome Powell was talking about as the most likely possibility. And the Fed is going to be prioritizing the jobs numbers because we're starting to see things breaking, because we're starting to see some weakness in the labor market. The Fed is incentivized to cut. That's the logic that they're using right now. So there's two sides to the coin. The first side is what Bostic is saying is that, wait, inflation is going up, it's elevated. Can the Fed really cut? He doesn't think so. It doesn't make sense, but we'll see just to be safe. That's pretty much what he said. But then there's other pieces of data that suggest that we could see core inflation decelerate in the month of August, and this could be a time that inflation is going to ease, which is what is incentivizing the markets to price in a 25 basis point cut in October and then also a 25 basis point cut in December. So two 25 basis point cuts. So with the big guy, Jerome Powell, giving his speech at 12:35 p.m. tomorrow, he's going to be addressing this. Jerome Powell already said he thinks that the odds favor the Fed's forecasts of seeing inflation being short-lived, and then there are risks of higher unemployment, which will likely peak at 4.5% according to economic projections report. And then once it peaks to 4.5%, then it's going to start to decrease and things are going to be okay. That's what Jerome Powell is telling us. And then he also mentioned that the Fed has a dual mandate. The Fed has to be very, very patient and persistent, and they're taking everything on a meeting to meeting basis. So we don't know what Jerome Powell is going to cause. We'll see about that, but just keep that in mind. He's going to be another big factor. Other pieces of news include Nvidia, which is said to invest over $100 billion into ChatGPT parent OpenAI. They're signing a letter of intent for a strategic partnership. That is amazing news, at least so far, which is why Nvidia is pumping. On top of this is what the earnings calendar looks like. We have AutoZone on Tuesday. On Wednesday, we have very, very minor earnings. But on Thursday, we have Costco announcing their earnings, which could be a very, very big factor. So get ready for Costco. That may cause some volatility. The fear and greed index is currently at greed. That's making up the majority of sentiment. Momentum is at greed right now as we're seeing a lot of buyers stepping in. And we also have the put to call option ratio at extreme greed. We're going to see how well that holds up. And the VIX remains neutral, at least for now, which does once again imply there could be some more upside. So for now, the market remains bullish. Let's break down our levels for Tesla. And we're going to just solely focus on the charts from this point on. So if you're a bear, just hypothetically, if you want to see Tesla get a rug pull, we need Jerome Powell or our data to be really bad. We need a bad piece of news. And you want to see Tesla lose 421. If that fails us, there's going to be a risk of us dipping down towards the gap fill all the way down here around, well, not the gap fill, but actually the lows around 402 again, if we're really, really bearish. If we're bullish, you want to see Tesla basically break and hold above not only 440, but 445. If that breaks, I think the 450s are coming next. Now, looking at this bearish divergence and the rejection we're starting to form, if we keep making lower highs, I would not be surprised if Tesla actually pushes in the morning back up towards 440. But I would be very, very careful because once we touch that, there's going to be a risk of us dipping back down to like 430. And maybe this gap fill, it could get filled before it tries to bounce again, but I still think that Tesla's going to remain in this range. And if we make another higher low, we could still try to bounce again one more time. So we could be looking for a move like this on Tesla, depending on if we make a higher low or not. My prediction is, once again, we try to push in the morning tomorrow towards this 440 zone. I don't know if we take out 445. We need another good piece of news to do that. If we don't and we make a lower high, there's going to be a risk of us turning back down like the way we did today. But instead of stopping at 430, we might be coming down to fill that gap before we bounce again. We could go from 440 to 425, then bounce, and we might see some sideways price action depending on the news. It also depends on Jerome Powell, depends on manufacturing numbers, depends on the news for Tesla. There's a lot of factors affecting this, so we'll see about this. For now, look for upside in the morning. We'll see if Tesla breaks the highs. If it doesn't, there's going to be a risk of us turning back down to 430, if not 425. So keep that in mind. On SPY, however, we're still bullish because SPY is making higher lows, and higher lows and breaking out. And then the daily time frame on SPY looks bullish. We're actually looking quite bullish. Typically, when you get a very, very bullish candlestick like this, we do go a bit higher. That's typically what happens on this chart historically. So as far as SPY is going, we're still bullish, but it does depend on Jerome Powell. If you're a bear on SPY, you want to see us basically lose 662. If 662 fails us, well, first 665 has to fail us. If we lose 665, then we're looking for 662. And if that fails us, we're going to be looking for a bigger move down. But if we're bullish, you want to see us basically hold above 668. If that breaks, we're looking for 670. I think that with the divergence, SPY might be returning back down to like 665 tomorrow. Could go a little lower. We'll see about that. And then we should be looking for a bounce. And we're going to likely continue to break out higher for new all-time highs. Because when you look at the chart, we broke out to all-time highs. Okay. We came down during FOMC, then we broke out, came down, we broke out. If we come down a little bit to 665 or a little bit below, we could still bounce for 667.5 to basically 670. We could dip and bounce all over again as the daily still looks more bullish. So SPY remains more bullish, and I think we're still holding up quite well. On the QQQ, we're making higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. Now, if you're bullish, you want to break 604, but if you're bearish, you want to see us basically fail at 595. So if 595 fails on the QQQ, we could start turning down lower and break 604 and we're bullish. I would not be surprised if we dip towards 600 to 598, maybe around 600 at the very least. And then we could be looking for a bounce to new all-time highs again on the QQQ. As long as we don't lose 595, we're going to be favoring a dip and a bounce, a dip and a bounce, and a dip and a bounce over and over again, making higher lows to breakouts to new all-time highs. So in essence, the QQQ is more bullish. Could we dip a bit? Sure, but then we're going to likely try to bounce. On the IWM, we're making higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. If we lose 242, we're going to be looking for a dip back down towards that 240 area. But as long as we hold that, we're going to be looking for an attempt for essentially 245. If that breaks, we're going to be looking for essentially 246. So I wouldn't be surprised if we retest 243, maybe just a little bit above 242, and then we just continue to reaccumulate and then break out for new all-time highs. The IWM still looks bullish. On ES, we're making higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, and higher lows. I think we're still breaking out very, very well. Now, the thing is, there is tough resistance around 6750. We could retest 6730 to 6720. And then we're going to see if we kind of like bounce like this to continue to push for 6780. So it's still looking quite bullish to me. If we lose 6710, we're going to be looking for 6675, and we will be turning lower if that fails us. But as of right now, we're favoring upside. As you can tell, we're just making higher lows. So could we dip towards 6725? Yes, but then we should be bouncing, continuing to break out because that's what the trend suggests. See how every time we touch the green line, we're just bouncing, bouncing, bouncing. So for now, that's what the trend suggests. Now, it also depends on what Jerome Powell says, so I can't make promises about this. I'm just telling you the chart suggests this as the most likely forecast, right? On NQ, 25,000 is a new resistance. We're kind of new to this high. I would not be surprised if we see a little dip to about 24,880 to 24,800. And then we could bounce and try to break out a higher. If we lose 24,787, we're looking for a bigger dump, but I'm going to be looking for a dip than a bounce, at least for now. On Bitcoin, we're trying to base right here around 112,000. As long as it holds, we're going to be looking for essentially 114,000. Still looks pretty good to me. For Tesla, like I said before, look for a push in the morning. I do think Tesla tries to push a little bit towards that 440 zone, but I don't know if we break this high. If we break the high, we're going to be bullish, looking for the 450s. But if we can't take out the high, we're going to be looking for a rejection in the low 440s and a move back down towards 430 flat. If not 425, then we'll see if we bounce again. But overall, I'll be watching this very, very closely, so keep that in mind. When it comes to Nvidia, we have resistance around this 184 area and support down here around 180. I would not be surprised if Nvidia dips just a little bit because we did reject about 4 or 5 times near 184. So it might retest 180 for a temporary move down, but then it could still bounce later on if we get more news. It could still try to break out because this could be an attempt to break out in terms of this trend out of this bull flag. This could be like a giant bull flag on Nvidia, and we could be looking for a breakout in case this does bounce. So could we dip a bit? Yes, 180 is possible. Then we're going to be seeing if we bounce or not. On Aapl, if we end up losing basically 252, we're looking for a bigger dump. But as long as we hold 255, we're going to be looking for 258 to 260. As of right now, as we're forming this low, we're going to be looking for a attempt for 258 or above. So keep that in mind. For Netflix, we're making higher lows over and over again. We're also forming a cup and handle and a bull flag. So, sorry, not a bull flag, a bullish wedge, excuse me. So as long as we don't end up losing 1220, we're going to be favoring consolidation and attempt for 1250. So this looks bullish to me. MSTR, if we end up losing essentially 332, we're looking for a dump. We break 338 and we're looking for a push. We might consolidate around 335 and break out for 340. So I still think we're looking good. If we end up losing 50, it's going to be bearish on Celsius, but we might test 50 then bounce. So we'll see how that goes. Supermicro is looking more bullish to me. We're going to be favoring 47.5. If we lose 45.63, we're going to be bearish, but I'm still favoring 47.5 as our target. Palantir might be dipping back down to 175.6, then we'll see if we bounce. Rivian is looking more bullish, favoring 15.5 as our potential target. It still looks quite good to me. SoFi is looking good. It might be retesting 29 flats, and we'll see if it bounces. But overall, look for a small dip in the morning. 29 to 28.5 should be tested before it tries to bounce. AMD is range bound right now. We're actually breaking out of this structure, which is quite good. But as we hit 162, we like to reject. As we hit 157, we like to bounce. I would not be surprised if we revisit 158 then try to bounce for 162. That's very possible. ARM could be retesting 146. As long as we don't lose 142, we're favoring 146 plus. PayPal could be retesting 68. If that breaks, we're looking for 69. But if we lose 66, we're turning back down, so I'm favoring the 68s. Coinbase has support down here at 325. If that fills us, we're bearish. But if we break past 332, we're going to be looking for essentially 338. I think that 332.5 could be tested. If that breaks, we're looking for 338. So give this the time it needs. For Amazon, if we end up losing 226, we could be dumping a lot more. But if we hold this, we could be looking for a bounce. I think we test 226.6, and we'll see if we bounce off that. It still could bounce. Meta needs to hold 765. As long as this holds, we're looking for a 10 for 772. As you can tell, we're making lower highs here, so it's not looking that great. If it bounces a bit, it might just make another rejection move. I continue to kind of like form a cup, an inverse cup, so be careful. Google's more bullish. As long as we don't lose 251, we should be bouncing looking for 255. And Microsoft, it needs to hold this. There's a gap up that's coming. We need to try to hold above 514. If we do, we should be looking for a breakout for 518. So we'll see about that. DJT has support down here at 17.4. We'll see if we bounce or not. The VIX is looking at 16.18 as resistance. If that breaks, we're looking for 16.5. But one thing that's interesting is that the VIX tends to like gap up, then consolidate, or dip, gap up, then consolidate. Do we gap up again on the VIX and then start to kind of dip as time goes on like this? Could that be a sign the market kind of like gaps down, then bounces? We'll see just to be safe. The 10 years going up, it has a gap to fill. It's not really affecting the market too much, with the dollar is dipping, which tends to be bullish for stocks. And then crude is also kind of like flat right now, not really doing much. It is dipping a little bit. So overall, SPY and the QQQ are technically bullish. As long as you don't lose any major support, we're still favoring that every time we dip. We do like to dip in the mornings, but before we try to bounce towards the end of the day on SPY and QQQ, we're still looking bullish. But Tesla looks like it might push in the morning, then maybe slow down as time goes on because there is a bearish divergence. I think we could get close to 440 in the morning, then we could reject off that and start to slow down back down to 435, if not 430. It also depends on the news. It depends on what Jerome Powell says tomorrow during his speech at 12:35 p.m. and also with all our economic data coming out. So we'll see what ends up happening. I can't make promises with all this data and Jerome Powell's speech. Sometimes it's hard to predict. But the last time Jerome Powell spoke, the market dipped and then it bounced really hard. Are we about to see a small dip and a bounce? Or is the market about to continue to rally? We'll see just to be safe, depending on this data. But for now, SPY and the QQQ look bullish, and Tesla's favoring upside for the morning. Then maybe some consolidation or even downside as the day goes on. So we'll see about that. But with that being said, I thank you all so much for listening. Have an awesome rest of your guys' days and nights, and I'll be back tomorrow before market open. Until then, I wish you all nothing but the best, and peace out.